It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Nanolini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 4, Episode 11. I am here with my co-host, Chris Nanolini.
What is up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, officially to mid-season. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm excited that we're mid-season. We keep going. Nobody's canceled us yet, so we're good. I'm excited. I'm doing well, brother. How about yourself?
Fantastic. No one's canceled this yet. I'm not exactly sure if anybody can really cancel us. If you look at the grand scheme, I mean, I guess they could. In a way, we could be canceled. We could cancel ourselves. Or the ratings could drop, and then what's the point? But it's kind of like being in a band. So,
it is,
but,
dude. It
yeah.
is. It is. It is.
But no, it's cool. It really is. You know what I mean? This is kind of exciting. We're already, on our 10th season. 10th season. I don't know about that, but we're in our 10th episode of Season 4. Yeah, some days it feels like we're in our 10th season. I'm sure of that. So, but you're good? Good?
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Everything is good. I got my, well, no, our listeners can't see, but I got my big Starbucks mug full of coffee. Ready to go, man. I'm ready.
I tagged you and your wife today in some Christmas stuff, so you know what's coming every Friday. Hallmark Channel. Get your Christmas on. Get your Christmas on.
Do you realize it's 6 months to Halloween, dude? Can I at least have that? It's halfway to Halloween.
Well, you'll have it
on Shudder. Let me have that.
With this the weather kind of switching back on us, it feels like it's Halloween.
Right?
Listen, I need, you know what I mean? I need some whatever. So it's exciting, you know what I mean? I put it out there.
You know, I've said this before, even on the show, because we're in April right now, and you go, wow, it's April and Christmas is December. And then somebody like you puts, only 47 Mondays till Christmas. And you're like, oh my God, like it's so close. It's ridiculous.
Listen, days, weeks, months, seasons, at this stage of the game for me, they're just running into one another. Like, I mean, we're already we're 4 months into the new year for us, and it's just like, here it's over. It's done. Let's get right to Christmas.
I know, man. I know. It's crazy.
It's flying.
It is crazy. And I know you're excited. I know you get very excited.
Yeah. Listen, I'm excited for the summer, just because I like the warmer months, of course. But somebody said to me, like on the recent post, they were like, when did you get so into Christmas? I said, always and forever. Like, I'm sorry. Like, haven't you been paying attention? Ever? But it's always been like that. So
I know. I'm excited about summer. It's funny. I just bought a friend of mine's band just put out hoodies, and I bought one, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to wear this very long.
Well, I don't know. I mean, spring hasn't
truly.
Spring hasn't truly kicked in yet. So
not yet. So I have a little bit of hoodie weather left, but then it's going to be.
Then it has to be quick. Put it away.
I'm gonna have to hang it up until next year.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, here we go, man. We don't have Will Smith to talk about. We don't have anybody else to talk about this week, so I guess we'll have to get right to topic. All right. We're going to talk about artist perspectives, the view from where they sit or from where you sit, how life on the road and life in the scene, life as an artist is different for everyone. So artist perspectives. What do you got on that, buddy? What do you think?
Wow, man, that's, it's kind of hard to answer, right? I mean, it
is a topic, I have to say, that you and I speak of in our personal life every so often.
Yes.
Like, I mean, we go...
Yes, correct.
The idea for this topic came about through a personal conversation, and we're like, hey, that may be kind of interesting just to talk about. You'll have people who are non-artists who have this perspective of what being an artist is, or what being a musician on the road is, or a performer.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they have that misconception of, oh, this is MTV life of everything we've seen in a video in the 80s. They think that's what it really is. And I guess, I mean, like we said before, for some people, maybe it was. Right? But for the majority of people, it probably was not even close to that. And in today's music industry, I don't think it's like that kind of at all. But
no, I think, I mean, I'm sure there are some bands, I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, even just what I've seen in my own personal life, it's not that, we've talked about it before. I love traveling. I love traveling no matter what it is, whether it's band or personal. I love traveling. I love to be in an airport because you're just going somewhere. Like, I just love that whole thing. Traveling is just something that I think we're just meant to do as people. And it always bums me out when I've talked to people and, they've never traveled and, or, maybe their big travel is, a week somewhere and that's all they can do. And I mean, I get people's lives, but unfortunately in this life, what we all do is we go to school, we work, pay taxes, and then have a family, and then we're gone. We spend a lot of that time working. Unfortunately, a lot of us do not get to travel. So I love to travel. I make a point to travel as much as I can. Now, obviously, I'm very fortunate than some of the people that I'm surrounded by. Me and my wife do not have children. It's easier for us to travel. But anyway, so I love to travel. So touring, being on the road is definitely, I can see where it gets trying. One of the things that we learned through the past couple of years when suicide has become so, in the forefront, when it comes to artists or musicians, because they say, when bands are on tour or artists are on tour, it's, they live for that 2 hours on stage. And then what do they do the rest of the 22 hours? And that's really what gets everybody. It's those hours of being alone or being inside your head and lack of sleep and, being in a hotel room or not doing anything. So, being on tour is certainly not easy. We talked about it before, catnapping wherever you can, trying to get some rest, trying to eat properly. I love it, but also I'm not doing it for a living and I'm not doing it for years on end. And, I know what I've gone through in my personal travels when I've been on tour, when I've had the pleasure of being on tour. And I can't imagine doing it for years on end. Like obviously the Foo Fighters were supposed to go out for a couple years. And back in the day, John Bon Jovi would, Bon Jovi, the band, would stay out for 2 years. I can't, even at that level where it's the nice hotels, it's the buses, I can't imagine doing that for so long because it's always just nice to come home. You know what I mean? But I love it. It's not easy. It is not for everybody. So I definitely huge respect for people that do it on a daily basis, living in a truck, living in a van, living in a camper, just making it to the next gig. And nowadays, it seems like nobody, more like your B and C level bands, it's almost like they throw darts at a map. They're just all over. Like it doesn't, sometimes, when you and I plan tours, we have a route. Yeah, we have a route. Some of these bands, and you and I are friends with one person in particular, and two actually, like they're routing. I don't know how they plan the route. It's almost like they put up a globe and go, okay, we're going to go here, 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 and it doesn't make sense. Like they're constantly back and forth, and that's crazy to me. But I'm sure there's reasons why they do it. So that's got to be hard. Where you're New York one day, and then you're all the way, in Florida, and then you're back up to Massachusetts. Like, it's crazy sometimes how it is, but I love it. But I give huge props to people that do it for a living because it's not easy at all.
It is not, no. And I mean, I have to say that I think those 2-year stints and all, like, it's a young man's game, or it's a game for those that have been in it for a very, very long time. They have, say like with the Foo Fighters and all, excluding their current situation, they're also touring at a different echelon than the average band, right? So is touring as grueling for them as, like, say, a new band on the scene? Maybe not in some respects. You know what I mean? It's not like they're hauling their own equipment. It's not like they're eating bad food. They may choose to, but that doesn't mean, like you said, they're not staying in flea-bit motels or the back of vans or things like that.
But they're still away from home. Like, I'm sure they're able to fly back and forth if they don't have family on tour. But let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, that they don't. Like, those hours do get lonely after some time. You know what I mean?
I agree with
obviously,
you.
With the current situation with Taylor passing away, I often wonder, did he, assuming from what we've read in the reports as of today, as we are recording this, we don't necessarily know what he died of, although we have a feeling by the things that they found in his hotel room. But just like, the singer for Linkin Park, did they succumb to their own heads being alone for so long in a room, just waiting to do whatever the band was going to do later that day?
Yeah, again, I don't know. We can speculate all we want, but I can comment on the fact that waiting sometimes, and we've talked about this before in other episodes, that when we're on tour, my band, like everything revolves around the show for the day. Like everything's about the show. You're traveling for the show, you're eating for the show, you're getting dressed for the show. So everything you do, like even if you get to sightsee, you have to do it in a certain amount of time because you got to get to the show. No matter what, we have to be on the road to get to the show. We have to do this. We have to get up. We have to do whatever you schedule in, like whether it's interviews or video shoots or photo shoots or some kind of promo, press, marketing for the tour or for whatever album you're supporting or whatnot. You have to do it all in between the show. And I get that. So if you're not booked up and doing anything, there is a lot of waiting. Like sometimes you get there, like if you're on tour and you have something half decent going, like you may be sound checking early and then you got hours to kill. And where do you go? What do you do? It's not like you're traveling with, all the amenities of home. Do you go to the venue? Do you go back to the hotel or wherever you're staying? Sometimes it may not be suitable based on the time that you have. So
right.
So it can be tough. And for some people, they can go out golfing, and other people, maybe they hit the gym. I know that on the downtime or on the wait time, like I've talked about before, like we try to get our decompression time in. That's for sanity, not only for the show so we perform better, but it's for us and each other so we're not getting on each other's nerves, because that happens. A couple days out,
for sure.
Immediately starts to happen. So I'll hit the gym, or if it's nice weather outside, maybe I'll either go take a walk. I know when we were in Europe, if we weren't traveling, like actually in the car for hours, and we were waiting, I would just walk, take a walk around. I wouldn't get too far because I wouldn't want to get lost or snatched in a white van or something like that. But, it's just to kind of break that monotony of either sitting and just watching the world rush by you from either side of the, you do sometimes get into your head. You start thinking things, and depending on where you're at, if you didn't sleep well or you have some intestinal issues, you didn't eat well, you had a bad show the night before, whatever the case may be, suffering from jet lag, you may start getting into your head and, going down a route. I don't totally get it. It could be that kind of person. I don't know. But I totally understand how things can completely spiral out of control.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I've only been on the road, most 2 weeks at a time. And I'm at a stage where I can do that. I don't need to do it anymore. I can do it less.
Right.
Because part of this was when I got back into it, I wanted to do it my way. I don't want to have to do someone else's routine or, being told you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to be here, you have to be here. No, because, thankfully, I made decisions in my other life that allows me to do this. I'm not afraid to say that. Doesn't mean I'm a big man and I'm the best, I'm doing it the greatest. That has nothing to do with it. I still fall on my face constantly, still make mistakes, still learning the game and the ropes. However, I don't have to kill myself because it's the end-all, be-all to stay on the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm older, too. Yeah. It's just not something I want to do all the time. Do I think about it? Yeah, you think about it, and you're like, I don't know. I like the bang for the buck.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
That's one perspective. I mean, some other perspectives that we could look at is like, you've met countless bands at all different levels on the road. I've done it as well. And sometimes you're taken by how certain artists like either react to you, react to the situation, the venue. They have certain expectations or assumptions that should or shouldn't be there. And then other bands, they're not even familiar with that, and it's alien to them, so to speak. I mean, we can talk a little more about that too, some experiences. I'll be the first one to say that I've been on both sides of those. And it depends on who you meet. Like, I've had some bigger name acts, and they come in and they have all these expectations, assumptions, and like, where are you coming in at? Like we're both playing the same venue here, man. It's I'm not sure if maybe you were sold something, but that's not, you know. And then you have other guys that come in and they'll say something to us, and we're like, nah, dude, it's, you know, it's both sides, right? And like you and I had talked about in another episode, I think it was last season, you could pluck us out of the level that we're now, put us maybe someday, hopefully, in the next level up, and we'd be lost for a little bit until we learn. There's some basic stuff that's the same, absolutely. But then there's things that are completely different, right? And we'd be green. And it would take us a little bit and probably, you know, some trial and error, a lot of error to figure out some of the stuff until you got the flow going. As the same with if you took, and I'm sure this has been the case too, because I've read stories, I've interviewed guys that were at that certain level, and then, you know, the bottom fell out, the music industry changed, all this kind of stuff, and then they're now forced to be playing at this other level. It was a transition for them because there wasn't the red carpet treatment. There wasn't a great meal waiting for them. It was maybe some cheese fries and two Coca-Cola liters, right? And diet wasn't included or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's not like, hey, no brown M&Ms here type of thing. So, you know, and I think everybody has experienced that on some level on both sides.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. You know, there's a festival on the East Coast that comes around once a year called M3. And what M3 is 3-day festival of old, I don't want to say hair metal because that's how it started, but that's not how it is anymore. Old 80s bands, Winger, Night Ranger, Loverboy, Kix, Great White, Jack Russell, Enough's Enough, Faster Pussycat, those kind of acts. It's always funny, you know, when I get to see those level bands, whether you're talking about Kix who headlines or Vince Neil that headlines one of the nights, and, you know, maybe Steven Adler's band in the middle of the afternoon. It's always interesting to me when you see all these guys on different levels and how they handle where they are, right? Like you were just saying, like for some bands, I remember, I think it was Enough's Enough, they couldn't look happier that they were on this huge stage in front of all these people, right? Probably, I don't know if it was maybe the biggest stage they've ever played on, or it was kind of regenerating them to where they used to be. And then you got guys like, you know, Night Ranger that do it all the time. And then there was one band that I won't name that was hugely rude, very inconsiderate. They were just like, they didn't really care. To them, it was just like, it's just another show, you know, on this stage, just in another town, and not really respecting what was going on and or the bands around them. So yeah, it's always interesting to me, especially bands of that caliber, where maybe they were on top at one time and now they're maybe not on top. They're kind of, I don't want to say mid-card, that's probably not the right word, but, you know, my band and their band probably could play on the same stage and everybody would be like, oh, you know, Chris's band's kind of on the same level as those guys. You know what I mean? Like, you know, in that aspect of it, everybody has a different perspective, obviously, like you were saying. And it's always interesting to me when I see it. Now, I haven't seen in my travels, and maybe you have, because I know you've played with some really, really big names. I haven't really seen a lot of bands that kind of go, oh, what is this? Or, you know, kind of being really down about, you know, where they're playing or what they're doing. I usually, the bands that I have met or run into are pretty happy that they're just playing anywhere. I mean, listen, there are bands, of course, that are rude and, you know, think they're still the rock stars that they should be. But I really haven't seen much of that. Maybe less than a handful for sure. I don't know if you have in your travels, because you've played with some pretty... You've played with some people that don't even get off the bus till they're ready to go on stage.
Yeah, I've had, a number of those people, unfortunately. We've had it where we were told, you know, we have to shut down our merch table before.
I've had that.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like a bummer. It's like, you know, I mean, we're on the bill too, you know, but, you know, they didn't want the competition. It's like, well, again, you're headlining. I'm not sure that I'm competing with you. I'm actually, if you look at it, I'm riding your coattails, and you're,
right.
You know what I mean? Let's be honest, right? That's why you become a support band the best that you can.
Or actually sell your shirts the same price as the headliner, right? Like if the headliner's selling their shirts for $25, they tell you that you have to sell your shirts for 25 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of,
Yeah.
there's just weird stuff like that. But now, we've run into some tough cookies, some very rude guys. Even the band was kind of split. Like, some of them were real cool, and then some of the others were not so cool. And
Yeah.
I've always found that for the most part, the replacement guys are always much more laid back, much cooler, want to talk and chat. I was getting some stuff signed because I do that too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I'm a fan as well. And the guy goes, "I wasn't even in the band," and I go, "I don't care, just sign it." That's what I mean. It's like
you're in the band now.
Yeah, you're in the band now. And he was kind of excited about that in a sense. I'm not saying because oh my God, Mick Michaels asked me to sign his album.
No, it was the point that you didn't care.
I didn't care because to me, it's like, dude, you got the gig. Right?
Right.
100%. For many of us, it's like you got two ways there, right? And it's either you've gotten there because it's a band you put together, right? And you're one of the original members. Or you got that gig. You were the fill-in guy that saved that band, and the band's still going. I know in today's world, there's certain bands that there's a rotating cast of characters, right?
Yeah.
But there's other guys that they've been in the band so long, they've been there longer than the original member was in there, in a sense, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely true. Yep.
You know what I mean? And they're still looked at as the new guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
true.
kind of crazy. But because they didn't have that, from 0 to 100 overnight thing, they were still in the trenches or they were a fan, So sometimes I always found those guys to be a little easier to chat with. Like, they're a little bit more down to earth and stuff like that. I played with bands, and this isn't a bitch fest, so to speak, but just to give you a perspective, I've had bands that are maybe high-level C bands that have an attitude like they're walking around like they're Judas Priest.
Oh,
it's rough.
Oh, yeah.
That's even worse. You can kind of almost understand some of these previously A bands that were kind of kicked down, or they were always a B band. There was bands out there that were always solid B bands. Listen, you had your choice. Yeah, okay, I'll be a solid B band. Why not?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But I'm not using that as a negative. It's just like that with anything. You have your A-lister actors, you have your B-listers, your C-listers, character actors. So, same with bands. There's nothing wrong with that. But some of these guys, it does make it harder. And then you're saying to yourself, it's like, man, listen, I'm in the trench too. And at the end of the night, my bass player says this all the time. At the end of the night, we're all playing the same venue. I know you may leave here and you got another place to go, and then maybe 4 gigs down the line, there's that big show, and then you go back to your, 10 crappy little ones that you're picking up. I get that. But, for that moment in time, everybody's kind of like, sharing that same energy. But I don't know, maybe, even when I've played with, and I'm nowhere nothing, but when I've played with younger bands or bands that are just, I've never found the need to be rude, obnoxious, uncaring. I still know where I came from. I haven't forgotten that. I'm pretty much reminded of it quite often. So it's hard to forget. But at the same time, it keeps you honest, in my opinion. And some people, and you and I have talked about this, even though this isn't their intent, they've been lucky enough, very fortunate, that their career has blossomed, their music has blossomed, and they've been given all this stuff all the time, so they got used to it. They may not be horrible type people or using that status as a negative. They just, like they say, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know what it's like to be a band that's kicked out of the venue right after their set in the pouring rain, then you'll never understand what that's like. Or when someone says, well, they didn't give you a hotel, no. Or they didn't have food backstage for you, no. And though there are those opportunities, and I've had a number of them, but most of them that doesn't exist for your regular
it doesn't.
Your regular band, your band that's out there. Any of the times that I have received or my band has received, it's like we're so it's amazing. Like, it's still baffling. Like, I've played festivals here in the States, and some of them, you don't even get food. And other ones, you get a little ticket. You got to go stand in line with everybody else, and you're trying to watch your time. And okay, I won't be able to stand in line. I'll have to do it after the set, or and then you get there, and then they have nothing left or whatever. Well, when I was in Germany and we played and we did a festival there, They had and again, I know they have that here in the States. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it doesn't exist for all bands all the time in every single place, okay?
Right.
But over there, all the bands that performed, they had a separate area in the building that they could go, and people were cooking and preparing food specifically for the bands, not to confuse it with what the general public was getting. And that was,
right.
we were like, they're walking us around, and we couldn't speak German. We're like, man, where are they taking us? We're not sure. We're going down into the bellies of the underground here in Germany. And we get there, and they have these tables, and we could, and this was like, and that, guys just kind of sit. He realizes we can't speak. We're not understanding much of anything, and he just goes, basically opening up his hands and like, yeah, you guys can sit here, eat, drink, and we were like, wow. And, you know what I mean? And like, no ticket or nothing. No, you can go back as many times as you want. I was like, whoa,
Whoa.
So,
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
I've met bands that are the greatest people, but they have expectations because that's what they're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And for some people, they may take that the wrong way, but it's like, no, like if that's not what you're used to, it is very difficult sometimes to, it's a shock. It is a shock. I do know we played a show. We had a fill-in bass player at one show. He had worked with a lot of big names, worked on the writing team for certain studios and certain producers and so on and so forth. He had become a mentor for me. I met him through other channels. First of all, I'm surprised that we even hit it off, but sometimes things happen in weird ways. Anyway, we were in a pinch, and I said, would you mind filling in that night for us? I knew that he could do it because he could read music, and also I said, well, if you can read music, you could do our stuff. 3 chords, you got it. So I just gave him the set list, gave him the songs. I didn't even have to give him tab or anything like that. And he had it all figured out. We did one rehearsal, and then we did the show. I was prepping him for some stuff. He thought that I was joking with him. When we were escorted off the stage, and we were direct support for the headliner, but when we were escorted off the stage, out the back door, and then in the parking lot, and the door closed, he says, I've never experienced anything like this ever in my life. He goes, this is like he was just, and I go, welcome to our world.
Welcome to the real world, buddy.
I go, this is touring in a metal band. You know what I mean? You kind of walked right out. It's crazy, man. But then, like I said, the other things, like I've worked on bass guitars and other guitars for national headliners that, just 3 hours before had gotten off a plane and their instrument was all out of whack. They don't have a tech, because again, they're a bigger name act, but they're only touring with themselves and maybe one other guy to carry stuff, and there's no real tech. We adjusted stuff, we worked on stuff, we've let them use equipment or whatever, so you're just kind of surprised. I've been fortunate enough to play with some bands a couple times over the years where guys don't remember you, which again, I can understand that. They see thousands and thousands of people. And then when you're surprised when they remember you, like you're like,
100%, yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, couple guys in the band, and it's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, or whatever the case may be. So that's the difference between how some people connect. Like you had said, they take into consideration what's happening around them, the environment, the people. Like you said with the festival in Maryland, for some it's just another gig, it's another date on that this year's schedule. Some of them aren't even sure where they're at, and then for other guys, it's such a big deal. That it holds a place in them. And that's how a lot of these guys sometimes then, like, they connect with fans because they see them over and over again. They expect to see those smiley faces in a sense.
Yeah. One time we were in California, we got asked to do this festival, and we were on the bill with some pretty decent names. It was a bunch of guys that were just trying to be cool and to pay all these bands to come out and do a show, for them and their friends and whoever showed up. And they rented like one of those places where it was a big place though, but it was for rehearsal spots, like bands kind of rent the rooms. And they had 2 big rooms separated by a door, and there was no stage. No, the PA came in the back of a guy's car. Like it was completely
It's a
not what
do-it-yourselfer.
yeah, man, like it was completely not what it was. And for me, I'm like, this is awesome. You know, sometimes, and as you know, and I hate to say this because I know how it sounds. Sometimes the bigger shows freak me out more than the small ones, because with the bigger shows come, you know, with great powers comes great responsibility, right? Like, you know, when you're playing these bigger shows, there's more to it, right? Like you're on this big stage and you larger than life, and you know, there's just more pressure. There's more anxiety to it. There's more nerves. You know, you play these other places, like this place we played in California, no stage, PA super small. You know, we played like in a corner. And I do get nervous because I still want to put on a good performance, and I love what I do. So, you know, I always had those pre-show jitters. Moral of the story was, because it was just a bunch of guys and, you know, just trying to put on a really cool show for them and all their friends, all they could afford was like pizza and lunch meat. You know, so, you know, here
I
we
like
are.
pizza and lunch meat.
Dude, I'm with you, bro. Like, you know, and like vegetable tray, you know, that they totally got from the local shop right or whatever. Yeah. You know, so we're all in this room and we're all sharing a big dressing room, and, you know, all the higher acts that were bigger than us, they were like, so like, this is it? Like, this is the food? And at one point, like, one of the promoters came over to me and was like, hey man, like, you know, the food's here, you know, I'm really sorry. It's just pizza. Like, he must've gotten
Ripped.
barraged by complaint. Yeah. And I'm like, hey man, that's cool, bro. Thank you so much. Like, it totally cool. And he was kind of looked at me sideways and he was like, you're cool. And I'm like, yeah, man, listen, I'm just happy that there's food at all. Like, even if all you had was a lunch meat tray and some soft pretzels, I'm cool as long as I have something to munch on until we go on. Like, and it just, that really showed me that, man, people just, they forget that they're, at one time they were playing, you know, these places with no stages, no PA, or, you know, really crappy PA, nothing's mic'd, because they're so used to playing these big venues with all these people and the big stage show and the lights, and, you know, and you're not blowing power out. You know, they forget that. And that's what really bums me out, because a lot of these bands, you know, I'm huge fans of. And then I go, man, like, you don't remember when you guys were like living in your car and going from place to place and just trying to make money to get to the next gig. Like, that's what it's about, man. And these people, they just forget. They really forget.
We had done a Midwest tour support for I'm not going to name the band, but the band was a collection of guys from much larger bands. The thing is all these guys at some point were also replacement guys for much larger bands. So they were maybe, you know, second, third generation. Some of them were even a little further down that. We were put up in, I'm not going to say hotels, but we were put up in motels, right? The promoter had got everybody rooms. Now, I mean, again, our band shared one room. You know, hey, listen, I didn't have to sleep outside or in my car, so I was excited. Right. There was food at the shows, and most of it was homemade. Like, the promoter had like his people.
Cool too.
I had no problems with that either. Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's my choice then what I eat or what I don't eat or something. Now, like we talked about before, I sometimes pack my own stuff because I get stomach issues and stuff like that. So I have to be careful. However, very grateful for all that stuff. Well, that band had more issues than you could shake a stick at about everything, where we were playing, what we were doing. We're joking with them, and if you know us, after a while, the breaking starts, right? The ball breaking starts. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, if we let one thing slip, you know, we're like vultures, and it's just, you know, we don't care. After a while, we don't care.
You guys just wait for that.
We just wait dumb. And then we're in there. So, you know, we're doing all this stuff. One show on the bill had gotten fouled up. I'm not exactly sure. I still, to this day, don't know what actually happened. Then the show never went off. I was like, all right. I mean, I wasn't completely bummed out. We still had a place to stay. I said, hey, guys, let's go get something to eat. So we did. You know what I mean? I got to go back to the hotel early enough and get some sleep. So we got we're all ready to go to bed, and we get a call in the room. I'm like, the hell, who's calling us? Frank picks it up, and it's the guitar player saying that the singer wants us to come out to his room so he can have a conversation with us. I'm like, well, why didn't the singer call himself? So,
oh my God.
So Frank's telling us, you know, and then my guys were like, "Oh, are you kidding me? It's like we're already, so we had to get
Everybody's
changed."
in their pajamas.
Yeah, so we had to get changed
Night
again.
shirts and hats.
Right, yeah. And it's like, what are we being called? The court. And we still joke about that. That's what we call it. So we're in there, it was like a feel out of who we were and what we were doing and what do you think of this thing? And I'm saying to myself, well, what difference does it make? We're supporting you.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things, man. It was like, but like I said, we made jest of it the rest of the time, which made it, but the one guy, you couldn't talk to him because he was just way too cool. Like, I think he was like 25th replacement removed drummer to a big name band. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't know, bud. Have you been on an album yet? I'm not sure. Has any of those guys been on an album? I'm not sure. It is funny sometimes how... Listen, and like I said, I'm at fault too. There's been times when you're creating, and we've talked about this before, when you're trying to have everything run smooth, streamline it, you're putting things properly in its place, or at least trying to, and then somebody's trying to take advantage, or it's not what you expected, or you're like, what is this? And sometimes that firmness, that's a nice way of saying it, comes out, and it may come across as an elitist attitude, but at the same time, there are certain standards, I think, that, listen, if you're comfortable with whatever, then it's good to go to the flow. If you're not, and you have to create standards for yourself, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Like, I mean, we've made it a decision a long time ago, like, we are not going to stay in hotels that are under a certain caliber. Like, I don't want bugs running around. I don't want to get
right.
bed bugs, or I need the water to work. I need to be able to flush the toilet. Early on we had stayed in places like the toilet wouldn't flush, and then we got a problem. There's 4 adult males who all have bad guts, and we got to go, right? I mean, and then you're running out and buying your own plunger for the hotel room. It's just not good. So, I mean, there's certain things, right? And like, there's certain places, like, I'm just not going to go eat there. Like, that's not where I don't want to eat there. Now, you can call that however you want, but if I'm paying for it, there's certain expectation. And I guess these guys look at it too, because in some regards, they are paying for it. They're paying for their people to do their job. So I can understand it.
Okay.
But when you treat other human beings, even other artists, let's just cut it out. Let's say, because some people are going to say, well, there's some human beings that need to be treated as such. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're treating other artists who are there in support of you and the show and the venue and you as the brand, then I think some courtesy should be shown. You don't have to dote all over somebody, hug and kiss them. And, though I had somebody do that to us, he must have hugged and kissed us and God blessed us, most of the night. And I was like, all right, man, listen, I was excited to meet you, but now I'm just not sure, man.
now you're getting on my nerves.
Now you're getting on my nerves. Do you need $5? Do you want me to give you $10? Because if that's, you know what I mean, I'll do it. I've helped other homeless guys out. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, man, like, you and I have been doing this long enough, and I know you have, and I know for sure I have done it a handful of times. At the times that we've sold tickets for certain shows, there have been a few times where I've outsold the headliner.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I've done that plenty of times.
When I was booking the Trocadero, with our mutual friend Steve many years ago, we had a couple shows where a bunch of locals sold tickets for the National. The National went on, place was empty.
Yeah,
I mean, honest to God, hand to God, man. I mean, that's just, and some of these guys, they walk in thinking, that their stuff doesn't stink, and then come to find out that you're playing for the floor and the bartender.
Yeah.
And the place was packed 45 minutes before you went on.
Yeah. I've had some shows even more recently. And then there's been an attitude of, like, that attitude has been worn. Like, here it is, I'm just at another place, or, where is everybody? Or, expecting this or that or the other thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is the bands themselves, a lot of those bands, I'm not passing judgment, okay? Not at all. You and I are at a stage where we have to still do tons of promotion. Without promotion of any kind, we have nothing, right? You're not going to, people aren't just going to pop in. These guys, certain bands, they themselves don't do it. There's nothing for that, because they either pay people or, like you said, sometimes the routes, you're like, me, they're here, they're down here, they're over here.
Yeah.
Because they're paying somebody just to kind of fill in dates for them.
Yeah.
And they, sometimes those guys aren't even thinking routing.
Right.
Because their job is not transportation, not equipment moving, not any of that stuff. They're just hey,
booking.
listen, I got from here to here. Fill in these dates for me. And nowadays, especially from the pandemic and so forth, it's kind of first come, first serve because what's left? Where do I go?
Yeah.
And let's take the first thing available.
Yep.
So, and I get it. I get it. I want to read something to you. I actually posted this on your page the other day.
Oh, I love this.
But
I love this.
But I kept it because I thought it was really good. It comes from musiciansunite.com. I thought this was really cool. And I'm sure somebody will have something to say about it because everybody does. But anyway, it says, any musician who tells you that it's always fun is either lying to you or hasn't been a musician long enough or very long. The truth is, being a musician won't always be easy or be fun, but it will always be worth it. It's a life very well spent. And I agree with that. It's not easy. It's not easy.
No.
When people ask me about being on tour, they ask me, like even family members, they think it's like, I had to explain. I'm like, listen, you know what it is? You're crammed up in a car and you're watching the road go by and you're just counting the minutes till the next rest stop because you got to go.
Yep.
That's it. You know what I mean? And
right.
everything revolves around the show. There's always a time check or, are we going to get there in time for parking and stuff like that? Some bands don't worry about that because they pay someone else to worry about it. Or because there's such a name or a draw, and nobody worries about it because nothing starts until they get there anyway.
Right.
Other bands, that's, like I said, everything revolves around that show. What do we do? What do we don't do? But this was a powerful thing, and as soon as I seen it, I thought of you because I know we've talked about things like this, and I said, let me share it.
Yeah.
This tied in so well to this topic that we were doing. It's just artist perspective. Sometimes trying to explain what it is you do or how you do it to someone who doesn't do it or has no idea. Like, again, how hard could it be? How hard could it be? It's not like you're lifting boxes or digging ditches. You're absolutely right. But you're lugging equipment up 2 flights of steps, and you're up late at night, and sometimes up early in the morning, and you're eating not so great food, and you're going to the bathroom at weird times, and you're not sleeping very well. You're crammed in a car, sitting all the time. There's a lot to it. That's not saying that it's negative. It's just that a lot of that's relative, right? Like a paper cut is relative to the person and how they interpret and deal with pain. For some, it's nothing, and other people, it's just as bad as a sword cut or, whatever.
Yeah.
And what is that? It's perspective. And that's what this show was about. You got anything else you'd like to add?
No, man. Nope. Real quick, I think I'm going to paraphrase here. I remember one time Henry Rollins said, back in the early days, hey, people would ask him about touring, and he'd be like, it's awful. Because it's not everything you think it is. It's literally hotels and airports, and that's it.
Yeah, I wish mine was a little bit more of airports, but that would be cool. But I know, you know what I mean? I agree wholeheartedly. So
yeah, man. Yep.
All right, if you like that, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the cosmic verse and fill that void. You'll never know what you'll find. Thanks so much for listening. This is The Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.